Nature sustains us. Nature provides the basis for all our survival needs. As humans, we are a part of nature, not just hanging in the balance, but creating irreversible geophysical changes to the world around us. We forget this entwinement and think ourselves above or apart from nature. But to protect nature is also to protect ourselves. We can complain about the problems the planet faces, or we can do what we can to help. No one alone can change the world, but we always have a choice, and what we choose to do is what makes the difference. We can be the difference in the change we want to see, and the opportunities to do so are presented every single day.
First things first, how have you been?
I've been good. I guess the lockdown has been difficult, but it's been difficult for everybody, so I'm constantly having to remind myself that I've been in a really lucky and privileged position. But yeah, it was tough on everyone, but apart from that, I have been really good.
I know we lost touch after, you left to Malaysia, I left to Australia.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of things happening in between, after 5-6 years now, get to finally see you now. What happened all that time?
Yeah, that journey, it was good. I completed my bachelor's, which was in arts and social sciences, majored in global studies. I traveled a lot during my degree. I got involved with a lot of different environmental activism. I attended and helped organize a number of different campaigns and protests. And after coming back, I traveled again. And now at the moment, I am currently freelance field guiding in Yala. I'm managing the social media for a conservation group called SCAR. And I've recently started working on the launch of this app called Earthly, which is for different conservationists and environmental groups to post their initiatives and get volunteers and such.
Now, in your IG bio, I've seen that you are an eco-feminist and an anarcho-primitivist. Now, that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Tell me, what's that all about?
Okay, so I'll break it down. So, ecofeminism is a branch of feminism that basically recognizes the link between the suppression of women under the patriarchy and the connection with the exploitation of nature under our current systems. So yeah, the feminist part of it, that's about equality, about men and women being equal. That's not how the world is today, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, the eco part basically brings in how a lot of the destruction and damage that we've seen done to the natural world has also been a result of an unequal governance. Because, women are known to be more empathetic, more sensitive. So with certain environmental issues, having a balance of men and women dealing with that we would see a different world today. So that's what ecofeminism is about, very basically. And anarcho-primitivism, that's broken down into the first half being anarchy, which there are a lot of misconceptions about anarchy. So people hear anarchy and they think like chaos and like all these
burning things down.
Yeah, like fighting in the street and looting. But anarchy, very simply, is the antithesis of hierarchy. So we live in a hierarchy now, and this would be anarchy.
Yep.
So it's self-governance, the lack of class systems and, all these different variables putting us as people on different levels. And the primitivism part is the belief that what we need now as a species and what the planet needs is for humankind to go back to primitive ways. So that's a pretty unpopular belief because, we've come so far in terms of development and technology, and to go back is, unheard of. But yeah, so the combination of anarchy and primitivism is just a different way of life where we, in almost in every way opposite to how we live now.
Talking about climate change, you were coordinating the Extinction Rebellion in Colombo. How did that come about?
Well, So the Extinction Rebellion movement actually started up in the UK in 2018, and it really spread like wildfire all across the globe. So 2019, it was started up in Sri Lanka. And funnily enough, I have been following the Extinction Rebellion movement and the story for a while, and I had really wanted to set up an XR in Sri Lanka and was kind of figuring out how to go about that. And then I went off for my travels. And when I came back in 4 months, there was one already set up. So I joined with them. Then I was the spokesperson and later a national coordinator. So with XR, we did a lot of good stuff. They're still doing a lot of good stuff. We did 2 phases of reforestation in Rakwana, which is bordering Singharaja. We did a lot of beach cleanups, a lot of educational stuff, quite a few protests, vast range of topics.
So I know there's a lot of activists, and how I spot one is through their Instagram. A lot of people call themselves activists, feminists, and there's all kinds of things that people put on their Instagram, but at the same time, people don't practice what they preach. But I've seen you actively engaged in a lot of activities in Sri Lanka. I've seen you on the news and trying to do something different, changing the status quo. Tell me a little bit about what you feel that the message is not getting through to some people, that this is some really serious issues that we are talking about and not something that should be spoken or used as a trending thing or a cliche line to use on your Instagram.
I agree that people that talk about this stuff should actively engage. They should be active and walk the walk as well. But I think the basis for these issues to come to light is conversation and talking about it. But it is about not ending it there and going a step further to make changes, whether it's in your own life or inspiring other people to make changes that will benefit all of humanity and the environment, the animals. So it's about, putting your money where your mouth is. And I'm still a hypocrite in a lot of ways, but it's about trying your best and acknowledging the choices that we have. And making the best choice, making the most conscious and compassionate choice, because we live in a world where, everything is set out for us, everything's convenient, and, everything that we see is normalcy. And we have to really unlearn and reevaluate how we live our lives and what habits we have, and then be active in trying to change that.
So I know that you're a vegan. And how did that happen? Tell me a little bit about veganism and how you got involved in that.
So I actually went vegetarian 4 years ago. And in the last year, I have been phasing out those last few things like dairy and eggs. And now I am full vegan. So in terms of the lifestyle, it's not just about diet. It's also about the products that you use, if they contain animal products or not, the clothes you wear, not to have animal skins like leathers, furs, etc. And basically just not to purchase or utilize anything that has come from an animal. And for me, going vegan or starting on this journey was about aligning my actions and my lifestyle with my moral values, because my whole life I've absolutely loved animals. I deem myself a conservationist, and there was just a moment when I woke up and realized I can't call myself these things while I still contribute to these industries that cause a lot of environmental damage and harm animals, basically. So with veganism, there are 3 main reasons why people choose to go vegan. So the first is ethical reasons, which is pretty much why I did it. And that's very basically like, if you love animals, don't pay for their exploitation and murder and rape and torture. because ultimately the animal agriculture industry is a violent one, and through the laws of demand and supply, you are paying for animal abuse. So if you love animals, very basically, don't eat them. Otherwise, you just love pets and you love wildlife. But what's the difference between a dog and a pig and a chicken or a cow or a leopard, you know? They're all sentient, they all value their lives, they don't want to die. In that moment of death, they feel fear, they feel pain, they feel anxiety, and I don't want to put animals or any sentient beings through that.
The first time I heard the word vegan, when I was in Australia, so I work in the restaurant industry, and this girl walked up to me and said, "Can I have a vegan platter?" I was like, "What? Vegetarian?" She's like, "No." And then they told me everything about it, and then after a while, I started hanging out with her because I found her interesting with the food choices and all that. And I was invited to one of these environmental activist nights, and we sat in one of those outside places where there was a fire, and I asked her, listening to punk rock music, and I said, "What's the lifestyle about? Like, you know, what is it like? How are you managing? How are you doing all this?" And it certainly needs a lot of sacrifices, like in terms of what you wear. And I really was captivated by the whole lifestyle. So it's quite, I don't know, I felt it was a lot of work. How was it for you?
So for me, it was actually not that difficult. It didn't feel like that much of a sacrifice. And the fact that you learned about veganism from environmental activists kind of brings me to my second reason as to why people go vegan, for environmental reasons, because animal agriculture is the leading cause of greenhouse gas emissions, hence climate change, the leading cause of water depletion and pollution, leading cause of deforestation and in the Amazon, and all these other ecological terrors. So once you become educated and aware of that and pair it with the ethical aspect, it really doesn't feel like that much of a sacrifice anymore. And especially when you are following a path like that which I'm on, it just becomes harder and harder to ignore this really obvious change that needs to be made. So in terms of the sacrifice, it's about a life and about taste. So it's like, which do you value as higher, the life of a sentient animal or your habit and your convenience and your taste buds? Because vegan food is also delicious. And that brings me to my third point of why people choose veganism, and it's for health. I'm sure you've heard that there are lots of documentaries now available online and stuff. So health and fitness wise, actually consuming animal products is the leading cause of most of our top killers, such as cancer, heart disease, heart attacks, high cholesterol, even diabetes. And it's a huge controversy actually, because big pharma, they have a lot to lose if people start to go vegan, because actually I think something like 60% of all the antibiotics produced are actually fed to farmland.
Fed to farmland, yeah. I've seen that.
So that's contributing to the human population's antibiotic resistance. So if we're going to see more pandemics and stuff like this in the future, our resistance to the medicine that can treat us is also diminishing, and that's going to be a problem for us health-wise, on top of all these other health issues that consuming animal products causes. Because biologically, physiologically, humans are herbivores. And again, that is not something that a lot of people know. We believe that we're carnivores, or omnivores rather, but we are herbivores in denial. Like everything from the structure of our mouths, our tongues, our teeth, the length of our digestive tracts, the acid pH level in our stomachs, it's always closest to that of a herbivore. So when you have this realization that we can not only survive but thrive and be healthier on a vegan diet, and it's also animal agriculture is causing huge problems for the environment, huge ethical problems, it's really simple. And I think breaking any habit is hard, but once you've educated yourself and become aware of all these things together, then it's really simple. Yeah.
By the way, this video was sponsored by the Vegan Curry. I know that you are a regular there.
Yes, the vegan curry is awesome. I have bought from them quite a few times now. So what you said about sacrifice and stuff and it being a little hard, sure, like breaking habits is hard. And I miss certain products where Sri Lanka is not really up there yet in terms of substitutes for things that you would normally eat, like mayonnaise, like chocolate spreads, salad creams, cream cheeses, that kind of stuff. The vegan curry actually brings these things down from abroad, and they are available to purchase through their Instagram or their social media pages. They have a full product list and it's pretty extensive. You can look through that, choose what you like, and you can pick it up. They also do delivery, and yeah, they're awesome. Shout out to the vegan curry.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Veganism, there are a number of ways that you can be more conscious, more eco-friendly. One of them is going zero waste. And that is not something you can do overnight. It's quite hard given this system that we live in and everything being centered around convenience. But the goal is to not generate any waste, because any waste that we do generate that's not being recycled is being burnt or going to landfill, both of which are not great for the environment. And Sri Lanka does have a serious waste management problem.
Yeah.
So it's simple things, you know, day by day you switch up your choices and your habits, and yeah, you can ultimately end up zero waste. So like this, for instance, we can enjoy a refreshing drink from a tree instead of buying a plastic Coca-Cola bottle from a shop, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, taking your own reusable bottles, your reusable bags. I mean, this is all very basic stuff, but it does go a long way. And you know, in terms of cellophane wrapping stuff in the fridge, there are so many different alternatives now to how we can preserve food, to how we carry our things about, for everything, any way you look at it. And the further you go on this zero waste journey, the more things you realize that you can substitute or alternate. And yeah, so that's one way. Another is minimalism, which is, yeah, fundamentally to just kind of move away from this consumer culture that we are all thrust into. And you know, I used to love shopping. I was a shopaholic, and you know, you would go to a shop, see something really cute and be like, oh my god, I need that. But it's about reevaluating and stopping yourself in those moments and thinking, do you really need that? This whole system is designed to make us, you know, work to accumulate wealth, to go and spend it on these consumer goods. And these goods are not only contributing to climate change and ecological destruction, but they're just amassing these huge piles of waste. So for example, like fast fashion. So I haven't bought new clothes in maybe 3 years now. So this dress was a hand-me-down. I got it altered by my grandma.
Same, my dad's 20-year-old shirt.
Amazing, look at us.
Yeah.
See, you can look cool and not be spending your money and destroying the environment. So yeah, things like that, minimalism, zero waste, supporting small local businesses instead of giving your money to these multinational corporations that are, you know, billionaires lining the pockets of billionaires, when there are people in the rural communities that are providing possibly the same service and struggling to feed their families. So it's more than just about environmental aspects, it's also the humanitarian aspect, because all these different forms of oppression are linked. And the more we start making conscious choices, it's just better all around for the whole planet and the people.
Recently, I've seen you at one of these protests because I think the Colombo municipality was doing something to the dogs, and they are getting rid of all the dogs, the stray dogs. So what was that all about?
So that was actually a drop in an ocean of numerous animal welfare issues that we face in Sri Lanka. But like you said, it was something to do with the municipality cleaning up the city and with this plan, rounding up some of the stray dogs in Colombo and putting them into an animal shelter or a dog shelter. And it sounds like a good thing, so a lot of people would support that, but what they don't know is when you put a whole load of dogs into a shelter or into a pound, dogs have pack mentality, so the weaker ones get picked on and usually killed by the stronger pack members, and any diseases would be shared amongst the dogs, and it's not a really pleasant life for them. So that's what that particular protest was about. But previous to that, there have been multiple protests and campaigns to request that the government pass and implement the animal welfare bill.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's something that they recently, or they have been continuously asking, because I saw recently a man shooting a dog in broad daylight, and that was very sad. So that's exemplary of why we need this animal welfare bill, because currently there is no proper legal protection of animals in this country. The legislation that we have for animal protection dates back to 1907, I think. Possibly it was amended in the 1950s, I could be wrong. But under that legislation, animal abuse is only finable 100 rupees. So you can literally shoot a dog and get away with it for 100 rupee fine or nothing because of the corruption and you know how it is here. That's why the animal welfare community is really pushing hard for this animal welfare bill. It was drafted back in 2006 and we still don't have it. So hopefully we'll see that after elections, hopefully. So tell me about SCAR.
So SCAR stands for Small Cat Advocacy and Research. It was founded by Anya Ratnayaka and Ashan Tudugala. The point of SCAR is basically to raise the profiles and highlight Sri Lanka's 3 small wild cats, which are the fishing cat, the jungle cat, and the rusty spotted cat. Under SCAR right now, they have 2 projects running. So Anya does Urban Fishing Cat in Colombo and Ashan runs Safe Fishing Cat in Kandy. This is an important conservation effort because so little is known about these 3 amazing species of small wild cat, and all the focus still remains on the leopard. So what I do for them is basically just run their social media, and I've learned a lot through this gig because I knew very little on these 3 small cats before I started this, and now I have to really create content, come up with educational material and stuff for their social media platforms.
I know that you're passionate about wildlife. What do you think Sri Lanka is missing?
That's a complex question. So, in terms of wildlife, missing nothing. It's people's engagement with it that's the problem, really. When it comes to the appreciation and observation of wildlife, like in the safari scene, there's a huge focus and obsession almost with our big 5, especially the leopard. And it's really the way that the industry is marketed. It centers around the big 5, and that's natural as well. Like in other safari hotspots, like in Africa, they center around their main attractions. But when people come to the jungle with this expectation of seeing a leopard, they're just there to see a leopard, and they'll drive around the park without much appreciation for just being in the park and the beauty of it and the flowers and the small dung beetles and the insect life, the bird life. There's so much that Sri Lanka has to offer in terms of wildlife, but not all tourism is promoting that holistic, eco-friendly sort of experience. So that's an issue. Apart from that, I'm sure you and the people watching would have seen we've had a lot of issues with leopards and other animals being caught to snares.
Yes, that's something that I've seen very recently. And basically every other week I hear a story. It's really sad. And the death of the melanistic leopard recently became really sensationalized on social media and everywhere. And the issue is a lot of people are quick to point fingers and blame the people setting the snares. But like I said, it's complex.
these are farmers that are either protecting their crops because this is their livelihood,
True.
or catching the animals for bushmeat, either to feed their own families or
That's a
because
big problem as well.
yeah, and it's also because people like us, privileged people from Colombo, when we go on safari, it's an athal to eat bushmeat, whether it's deer or wild boar or whatever it is. So when these snares are set,
Tadamas, that's how they call it. Tadamas,
when the snares are set, they're not exclusive. So if a leopard walks through that snare, a leopard is going to get caught to that snare. So it's the same people that demand bushmeat when they go on safari that are also complaining when leopards and other animals that we deem separate and precious in a different category get caught. So snaring and trapping, the human-elephant conflict, the human-leopard conflict, the human-peacock conflict, there's a lot of conflict between people and wildlife in this country, and that needs a lot of in-depth management. It needs to be bottom-up, top-down, and a lot to do with education as well, and people learning how to coexist with nature.
Yeah. In terms of activism, what are your plans for the future? And is there anything you like to, as a person, impact our society, do something that you've been always wanting to do?
A heavy question. I plan to continue doing what I'm doing out in nature with wildlife, with guiding. I get to share this love for wildlife and wilderness spaces and kind of spark that inner conservationist of people that visit our national parks. And I want to continuously develop my knowledge in biodiversity, because I went arts instead of science. Hopefully I plan to study again, this time take a more sciencey direction, because I would love to be part of research efforts, because in Sri Lanka we're a biodiversity hotspot, and there's real gaps in our research when it comes to our wildlife, insects, and I would really love to be part of some research efforts that can help us better understand ecology, so that we know how we can preserve it, what needs conservation, things like that. Just keep on living my life as I do, and constantly improving and making changes that are better for the environment, better for people. And I think that's ultimately what we all as individuals have as our power, like how we choose to live our lives, and that inspires the people around us. And the domino effect.
It's all about changing the status quo. So there's they have normalized a lot of things that shouldn't be normalized.
Definitely.
And you are pushing to do some to change the current system. And as an activist, this is what you try to do, to change the current system. You have to do a little to change what's been done for ages. And you're doing a great job, and I wish you all the very best with your future. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for giving me a platform to talk about these issues, because not a lot of people want to talk about veganism and activism and stuff like that, so it's been great. Thanks.
Thank you guys for watching the video. If you liked the message, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, share the message with your friends. Big thanks goes to the Vegan Kali for sponsoring this video.
A lot of what we spoke about, Eshan is going to put links to it in the description, so you can go and check it out. There are lots of ways to join and support the cause, so be the change that you want to see in the world.